ओम योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. We read up to 24 sutras, but we will go back to 19 and pick up from there. Because some people have asked difficulties about 19. So you can open your books on Sutra 19 of the second chapter, Vishesha, Avishesha, Linga Matra, Alingani, Guna Parvani. So we are talking of the three gunas, Sattva, Raja, Tama of Prakriti. And Parvani means their states or grades or different appearances, different forms. Now, I am giving the common man's explanation. Vishesha means the gross objects. The final, our experience today is of gross objects. And Prakriti has three gunas. So, I told you the formation. Prakriti becomes Mahat and Mahat becomes Asmita. But we are not repeating that. From this side, when we see, we are aware of gross objects of this world. So that is called the Vishesha, specified. Vishesha means specified. Specified forms of gunas. So they are the gross objects pursued by us. Avishesha. Avishesha is when our perceptions become penetrative, we are able to perceive these subtler elements making those gross objects. So, subtler elements making the gross objects, when we perceive, that is called the avishesha forms of the three gunas. Then our concentration or meditation becomes still more penetrative, and we are able to perceive ourselves, not our real self, of course, but our own mind, our own buddhi, our own I consciousness. So that is called Linga Matra. It leaves a sign. Linga Matra means giving a sign only. So by knowing our mind or buddhi or I consciousness, we know what we are. This is the sign. So Linga Matra, it is also the appearance of three gunas. Our buddhi, our I consciousness, all are made of three gunas. Then Alingani. This is the Mula Prakriti, the primordial Prakriti, which is the Samyavastha of the three gunas. So, these are the four forms of appearance of the gunas depending upon our penetrative perception more and more. Then we come to Sutra 20, Drashta Drishimatra, Shuddho Api, Pratyaya Anupashya. Drashta means we, seer, is only of the nature of consciousness, Drishimatra, only of the nature of consciousness, that is our real nature. Shuddho Api, unmixed, pure, that is our real nature. Api means even then. Pratyaya Anupashya. Our buddhi perceives something, and that is called Pratyaya. Pratyaya means our experience or perception, not our, it is buddhi's perception. We are only pure consciousness. We need not perceive anything. In our mukta nature, in our real nature, we have no connection with the world. We need not perceive anything. We are free. We are independent. We are ourselves. That is called Shuddho Api. But what is happening in this state of ignorance, that we are getting mixed up. It is our mind and buddhi which is perceiving things, not we. The subject in relation to object, this is our mind or buddhi, not we. We are not subject in relation to objects. We are only consciousness. There is no subject or object there. But pratyaya means the perception of our mind or buddhi. Anupashya, we appear as if we are perceiving. What the mind or buddhi perceives, it appears that going behind our mind or buddhi, we are perceiving. So that is this 20th Sutra. We are only consciousness, pure, but following our mind and buddhi, we perceive things of the world. Then we come to 21. Tadartha eva drishyasya atma. Tadartha eva, that means for our sake. For our sake only is the reality of the drishya. The objective prakriti has no purpose of its own. It exists only for ourselves. We are not for Prakriti. Prakriti is for us. How and what? He will explain slowly. Here Atma means the substance. So Drishyasya, of the scene, that is Prakriti, in all these four forms, all these four are Prakriti only. But that is for the purpose of myself. Tadartha eva drishyasya atma. Now suppose my purpose is fulfilled. I do not require the help of Prakriti now. What happens to the Prakriti? It does not exist for me. I know that Prakriti exists separately from me according to Sankhya. But I have nothing to do with it. So in the 22nd Sutra we are told, Krutartham prati nashtam api anashtam tad anya sadharanatvat. Krutartham means one who has realized the purpose of life. Prati means for him. Nashtam api, as if destroyed, as if does not exist. So it is as if destroyed for us. But Prakriti never gets destroyed. Prakriti is eternal according to Sankhya. So what is it doing? It is doing for others. Tadartha eva. So it is giving experience to all those Purushas. Remember, in Sankhya there are innumerable Purushas. The consciousness is pure. Our nature is consciousness only. But this Prakriti is working for other Purushas because it has to give them experience and then release them from bondage. So, for ourselves it does not exist, but that means Prakriti. Anya sadharanatvat. Anya means others. Sadharana means general. Sadharanatvat is the hetu, Panchami. So, for the sake of, in general, for the sake of others, Prakriti is existing or working. Now, it comes to a word Sanyoga. Swami Shaktyo Swarupa Upalabdhi Hetuhu Sanyoga. Sanyoga means false identification. Sanyoga literally means joining. Now, Why we are joined to Prakriti? What is the reason, hetu, for this joining? Shakti, so means Prakriti. We are talking about Prakriti here. So Prakriti has its own powers. Swami Shaktyo. And the Purusha which is observing Prakriti has its own powers. Swarupa means form, own form. Upalabdhi. We perceive our own qualities. We perceive Prakriti's qualities in a mixed way due to our identification with Prakriti. If we are not identified with Prakriti, we exist only as pure consciousness. Though Sankhya does not talk of Anandam, but we know that we exist as existence, consciousness, bliss. Now, Sankhya does not talk of existence because Prakriti also exists. And Sankhya does not talk of bliss because it does not know about it. So it talks only about the consciousness part. Prakriti is material, jada, non-conscious, unconscious. We are conscious. Now when we join ourselves to what is Prakriti? My mind, my buddhi, my I also is Prakriti. What is called Asmita. So I consciousness, buddhi, mind, my indriyas, my body and the outside world, this is all Prakriti. Now, I am pure consciousness. What are my powers? I am pure consciousness. But I am consciousness is known only when I am joined to the Prakriti. And Prakriti's properties are all these so many experiences, so many forms. So we are joined with Prakriti falsely. We can never join. Pure consciousness can never come in contact with anything which is matter. This has to be made very clear. Pure consciousness is not physical. Pure consciousness is not material. Pure consciousness has no holes in which Prakriti can sit. Pure consciousness has no length, breadth. It is all pervading because it is not a limited dimension. So how can pure consciousness come or become joined to material Prakriti? That he has already told, it is called avidya. It is a wrong knowledge which you are carrying. Swabhavika vidya, that we are joined to Prakriti. I have my I have my mind, I have my buddhi, all this is ignorance. All this is wrong knowledge. So this connection takes place maybe due to wrong knowledge, but why? What is the need of getting connected? Because I should know what is Prakriti, I should know what I am, so I am getting joy. And here we come to 25, Tasya Hetu Avidya, that is what I have been telling. Tasya Hetu, the Hetu of joining is Avidya. It is a wrong knowledge. Now for the sake of this Avidya, let us go back to Sutra 16 and 17. In this study of Patanjali Sutras, we will have to, lot of time we have to go back, come forward, go back, come forward, because the sutras are differently connected. And so, avidya was explained in Sutra 16. No. Sutra, where is avidya? Avidya, we have to go back to Sutra
Sutra,
Sutra 5.
Sutra 5.
Second chapter, Sutra 5, we have to go back to. Anitya, Ashuchi, Dukkha, Anatmasu, Nitya, Shuchi, Sukhatma Khyati, Avidya. He is describing Prakriti on one side and it is Anitya, temporary. But in our knowledge, we take Prakriti to be permanent. He does not say Prakriti is unreal. Prakriti is changing every moment. But we take it to be unchanging. Otherwise, we do not live at all. Ashuchi. Here, more talk of our own body. Or what is called this is the partner's body. It is the unholiest thing. If you analyze the body, we need not again see that it is filled with not only the constituents of the body, but our refuge, our excreta is all within the body. And it is made of blood and all that. So it is very dirty, unholy. But we take body to be beautiful, body to be holy. That is due to wrong knowledge. Dukkha and Prakriti is constantly giving us misery. He has explained that nicely, that all is dukkha for the discriminating man. But we never take it. We feel it is giving us pleasure. We forget that pleasure itself is pain. But this is our wrong knowledge. It is ingrained in us. Otherwise, the life in the world would not have gone on. Everybody seeks enjoyment, everybody feels he is enjoying, though he is suffering miseries. So, dukkha is ingrained in our consciousness as sukha. And anatma. My body is not I, my mind is not I is not my real nature. Outside objects are not mine, but in our wrong knowledge, we are constantly identified with, starting from my I consciousness, buddhi, mind, indriyas, body, everything is taken to be I am my own real. So this is the avidya. And here in 24th Sutra it is telling Tasya hetur avidya. Tasya hetu means the hetu of the joining. We are joined to Prakriti due to our wrong knowledge. If we gain the right knowledge, the implication is this. If we gain the right knowledge, we shall be free from the clutches of Prakriti. If we gain the right knowledge, we will exist by ourselves. So, tasya hetu avidya. So, avidya has come back here as the hetu of sanyoga. And in 16 and 17, please refer to again. Yes. It is not yet talking of that, but we will come to that. Heyam dukkham anagatam. Dukkha, anagatam dukkham heyam was the topic. That misery which is yet to come has to be avoided. Now that misery has come due to joining, it has to be avoided. And now we come to 25. Here we will use that Sutra 16. Tad abhavat संयोग अभावो हानम तदृशे kaivalyam. We are getting a new word here. Tad abhavat. In the absence of avidya, in the absence of wrong knowledge, that means when we get the real knowledge. Sanyoga abhavo, the joining will not be there. When avidya will not be there, the joining will not be there. Hanam. Hanam, we get connected with the 216 here. Ayam become Hanam. Hanam is that which had to be avoided. That which you have to avoid. What is that? Dukkham. So dukkham has to be avoided. If we do not have avidya, we do not have the joining, and that is the destruction of dukkha. Ignorance results in joining, joining results in dukkha. So if ignorance is gone, joining is gone, dukkha is gone. And then what happens to us? Tad drishehe, that state, drishe means of the seer, of ourselves. Kaivalyam is the new word which has come. Kaivalyam, according to Sankhya, is freedom from Prakriti. Keval literally means only. We only exist. We are not joined with Prakriti. Now here I would have to tell you, the meaning of the word Kaivalyam is different in Vedanta. They appear same. Appearance is similar. Sankhya says, if I am not connected with Prakriti, I am Kevala. Vedanta says, Kevalam means one without a second. One without a second. You may say, I am everything. There is no second apart from me. I am all. Or in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there is nothing. And after Nirvikalpa Samadhi, I am everything. There is nothing other than me. This is called Kevalam. In Sankhya, after their Samadhi, again they see the Prakriti. They constantly have to practice Samadhi. So, Kevalam in Sankhya means I am alone, means no Prakriti for me. Vedanta, I am Keval means I am one without a second. I am everything. Prakriti is my own power. So this difference is there. Anyway, but if avidya is not there, joining is not there, dukkhas have gone, and that is for me Kevala, Mukti. Mukti is called in Sankhya as Kaivalyam. Vedanta also calls it Kaivalyam with a different connotation. So here the hint of Mukti has come first time. Up till now we are not met with this. So here it says, no avidya, no joining, no dukkha, we are mukta, we are keval. Now, what is the upaya of this hana? How this ignorance becomes destroyed? How the joining will go away? How dukkhas will go away? 26. Viveka khyati aviplava hana upaya. Upaya means the means, method or the means of hana. Hana, let us take it as destruction of ignorance, joining and dukkha. All this is hana. The upaya for this is aviplava viveka khyati. Viveka is the name, discriminative knowledge. The yogis finally want to achieve the discriminative knowledge. I am separate, Prakriti is separate. That is the discrimination. And now that is the name. Viveka Khyati means well known as Viveka. The knowledge which is well known as Viveka, I am separate, Prakriti is separate. But what has to be done? Aviplava. Aviplava means unobstructed, unbroken practice of Viveka. That is a great problem with yoga and Sankhya. We have to, when we are able to achieve the discrimination, we have to practice it constantly. That is categorically different. In Vedanta, if we achieve the Nirvikal Samadhi, ignorance is gone, it will never come back. We may see the world, but we will not at all feel it to be real. Now, in the yoga or Sankhya, we have to constantly practice Viveka, discrimination. That is the means of destruction of ignorance, joining and dukkha. So, Hana Upaya is Aviplava Viveka Khyati, unbroken practice of discrimination, the knowledge which is called discrimination. Now, suppose we are practicing it in the 27th Sutra, Tasya Saptadha Pranta Bhumi Prajna. Now, Viveka itself is termed as Prajna, the real knowledge, the inside knowledge. Now, this inner knowledge or real knowledge, we refer to Prajna, Ritambara Tatra Prajna, filled with truth. Prajna is the knowledge filled with truth. Now, it has 7 steps or grades. We are getting these 7 grades here first time. Knowledge or Viveka or Prajna, Pranta Bhumi. Pranta Bhumi means, Pranta means limits. Limit. This is up to one stage, this is up to one stage, this is up to one stage, that are called limits. So there are 7 limits of Prajna or Viveka Saptadha of 7 types. Now, they have not been described by Patanjali. Sutra literature always requires commentary. It is only Patanjali has said 7 states. So the commentators, if you take up Swami Vivekananda's commentary or Vyas Bhashya, we can find what are these 7 steps. First step will be, now we are practicing discrimination. First, we know what is pain. We really know what is pain. Not that we are feeling pain. We know the nature of this fellow called pain. That is the first step. We have become fully aware. Why pain is coming to me? Because of the joining. Why pain is coming to me? All is painful. This knowledge is the first result of Viveka. The result of discriminative knowledge, the first result is that I know what is pain. Then my knowledge grows. My practice gives me more penetrative knowledge, more discriminative knowledge. So the second grade will be, I know the causes of this pain. I know that this pain is caused by the Sanyoga. I know, and the powers of these causes are reduced now because of my knowledge. Dukkha may be there, but it will not trouble me so much as previously. When I know the causes of pain, I remember here Bhagavan Buddha's teaching. He says pain is there and there are causes of pain. Now these causes of pain become known in the second stage of discriminative knowledge. In the third stage, we get full knowledge of pain again. Full knowledge of the world, you may say. I get omniscience in a way. I know the full world. I know that everything in the world is painful. I know that my life is painful. I know the world to be painful. Now this knowledge is entering deeper and deeper into me. So the very meaning of the word know changes. I know as information. I know as my direct feeling. So I know what is pain. I know the causes of pain and they have become powerless. Knowledge is power. And then I know everything in the world is giving me pain. I am all knower. Then fourth, my chitta, my mind stuff is become free from this prakriti. Discriminative knowledge is still in my mind. I have not yet got it, but in my mind it has come that I don't have to do anything with prakriti. This state of the mind, the free state of the mind, not my own free state, but the free state of the mind, that it has nothing to do with prakriti, is the fourth step of this practice of discriminative knowledge. Now the fifth step. Buddhi is there. Buddhi is almost myself, not myself. But work of Buddhi is over. Buddhi, the work of Buddhi was this discrimination. So, in the fifth stage of discriminative knowledge, the work of Buddhi is now over. I don't have to think now. I don't have to discriminate. Though I am practicing the discrimination, but the work of Buddhi is now over. That is the fifth state of discriminative knowledge. Now the sixth state, we had made a sutra, Te Prati Prasava Heya Sushma, you remember? That was Te Prati Prasava Heya Sukshma. That means the Pancha Kleshas, when they are Sukshma, they are to be reduced to their own causes. That is Prati Prasava. Now that has become possible. In the sixth stage, my own mind has gone back to Prakriti. Now it is no longer my mind. I do not require my mind. So mind has gone back to Prakriti. Prati Prasava was to be done through concentration. I have been able to achieve that. That is the sixth state. In the fifth state, mind is become free. In the sixth state, mind is gone into Prakriti. I don't have any mind now. It is difficult for the present generation or Western influenced generation to understand, even for Indians, how I can exist without mind. I am pure consciousness. I do not require mind to think. Mind joins me to the external world. Now I am not joined to the external world. What has happened to the mind? Mind has gone back to its cause, the Prakriti. That is the sixth stage of discriminative knowledge. And then the seventh, we are established in our own self. In the seventh stage of discriminative knowledge, I am established in my own state. So, the Viveka Khyati constantly practice leads me to this, that I am established in my own self. And that is why, that is like Kaivalya. So, now we have to go back. Where? Remember, first chapter consisted of samadhis, various samadhis, which are all higher and higher and higher. Second chapter is called Sadhana Path. And three elements were given. Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishwar, Pranidhan. Now, what we know of Rajoga has come now. That how all this is achieved, again, go back and forward. Theoretically explained, Avidya explained, you get like this explained, but how to start? Even Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishwar, Pranidhan is not the start, mind you. Now, Patanjali will tell 10 yamas, 10 niyamas, 5 yamas, 5 niyamas. And the last three of these niyamas are Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishwar, Pranidhan. So now we are going back, how to start Patanjali Yoga in life. There we have come now. We have understood many things. We have understood what will lead to what. But now we have to start in our life, and Yoganga Anushtanad Ashuddhikshaye Jnana Deeptihi Aviveka Khyate. Viveka Khyati, Viveka is the name, A means up to. Up to Viveka Khyati, Jnana Deepti. The knowledge shines up to discrimination. How? Ashuddhikshaye. Removing the impurities of mind When all the impurities of mind have gone, then the knowledge which we are shines with discrimination. How? Yoganga Anushthanat. Yoga means Patanjali Yoga. Yoga means Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And he told, don't try for Chitta Vritti Nirodha directly. First practice Samprajñata Samadhi. Otherwise you will be led astray. Now, how to get that Samprajñata Samadhi? So he told Tapasadhya Ishvara Pranidhan. Now he tells from the beginning how to start and what to do. So yoga has anga. Anga are not actually parts, angas are steps. Yoganga Anushtanat, we have to practice. So practice of discrimination and all that was on the higher state. To start life, to start following Patanjali, we have to start like this. We have to practice. Anushtan means practice. We have to practice steps of Rajayoga. We have to practice Rajayoga step by step. Then our impurities will go and the knowledge will shine up to discrimination. So this is now, in a way, the real start from practical point of view, the real start of Patanjali Yoga. And that is why we all know that Patanjali Yoga consists of 8 steps. All of us know practically that Patanjali means 8 steps. Now that has come now. He has not counted 8 here, that he will count in the next. But here he only says, by practicing the steps of yoga, our impurities will reduce, get more and more reduced. Finally, all impurities will vanish. Then our knowledge will shine up to full discriminative knowledge. So that is now Patanjali has given us how to start life. Now we come to the enumeration of these 8 steps. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhayoho, Ashtangani. Ashtau Angani. So he has counted and told there are 8 steps. And Samadhi is taken as one of the steps because we don't have to achieve concentration. We have to achieve Viveka. We have to achieve Asamprajñata. We have to not allow any wave to rise in the mind. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And he had told for this Samprajñata Samadhi you have to practice. So here Samadhi means that Samprajñata Samadhi, which he has afterwards called Sabija Samadhi. So these are the 8 steps. Step is not the goal. If you call the goal, it will be 9th. So 8 steps, mind you. Yama. Now I will translate this. Yama, later on Patanjali will tell us general rules. Yama means general rules of conduct, of thinking, of feeling, of practice. 5 are general rules. Yama means general rules. What is the meaning of general? To be practiced by all. Whether you want to be a yogi or not, it has to be practiced by all. That is what Patanjali will tell later on. Patanjali will tell us that if you want to live as a normal man, don't get degenerated into animalism, then you have to practice 5 things. So they are called Yama means general rules. Niyama means special rules if you want to be a yogi. So that is the step difference. First step he says is for all. General rules for humanity if you want to exist as human beings. If you add that if we don't want to go down to animal level, if we don't want to cut throats of each other, then if we want to live as human beings, we must practice general rules. Then if you want to become yogi, if you want to reach the state of Chitta Vritti Nirodh, you have to start by practicing 5 special rules. Niyama, yama and niyama meaning outside is not different. But because he has given them as 2 steps, we understand yama means general rule for humanity if they don't have to go down. Niyama means special rules if you want to become yogi. Asana. Here comes the great difference between so-called Hatha Yoga. On the first day and second day, I had talked about this. Hatha Yoga preaches 82 or 84 asanas. Patanjali asks us to select one asana. There are 3, 4, 5 asanas, out of which we can practice one. But we have to practice one asana. For what? We have to meditate. We have to think deeply. And so, there has to be asana which will make us steady, which we can steadily employ for thinking, which we can steadily employ for meditation. Now here itself I name a few. Swastikasana is our cross-legged usual posture. It is also called Sukhasana. Padmasana is very famous, keeping one leg above the other. That is difficult in the beginning, but once achieved, you can sit hours together in Padmasana. There is another called Siddhasana. Anyway, one more is there, Virasana. Not more, please. Not more. So, not 84 asanas. Not changing asanas one to the other. So, yoga is Hatha Yoga, may be useful from bodily point of view, but has nothing to do, Patanjali has nothing to do with this. On this point only I had said on the first day, that if you take the name of Patanjali and delude people, is it all right? Anyway, I am not commenting further. So, asana is the pose. Asana means the pose, the posture in which we can sit. Then comes pranayama. Here again, Hatha yogis are pranayama specialists. So much they have developed this science. Patanjali has only mentioned it as one of the steps. So, Patanjali's science is great so far as the mind is concerned. And he has prescribed up to Chitta Vritti Nirodh the steps, yama, general rules, niyama, special rules, asana, posture, then pranayama. Pran is the life force. Pran is the original of all energies. Even mental thought is the function of prana. So prana is the primordial energy. We have matter and energy. Energy acts upon matter and changes its form. This prana is in our body. Breathing is only a small part of it. Breathing is only one of the aspects of this prana. When we inhale and exhale, we are working on the lungs. We are working on the pumps of the lungs. And it is supplying energy to all our body. The circulation of blood is a form of energy only. So we have to control the basic energy through breathing. So that is pranayama. Then pratyahar. Prati means reverse. Ahar means taking in. Ahara is not only food. In Sanskrit, ahriyate iti ahara, which is taken inside is called ahara. Now, our organs of perception and in karmendriyas, continuously they are going outside. continuously they are engaged in objects and the outside world. We cannot practice yoga at all unless they are withdrawn inside. Kathopanishad has a beautiful explanation for this. He says Swayambhu Paramatma has punched holes in our body, opening outside. We glorify our indriyas, but Kathopanishad describes that Swayambhu Paramatma has injured us by cutting 5 holes, like 5 walls which are one-side walls, which open outside, and that is why we go outside. With great difficulty, some Vivekis, they turn them inside. So unless we have withdrawn our indriyas, how can we practice yoga? So, when we come to that step, I will explain something more. But pratyahara means withdrawing the indriyas from the objects in which they are indulging. Then comes dharana. Dharana, dhyana and samadhi, he will describe in the next chapter, mind you. In this chapter 5 only will be described. But he has given the name, let us understand it. Dharana in Patanjali means Desha Bandhas Chittasya Dharana. Desha means some spot in space. This spot, according to Patanjali, can be our heart, our brain, or any spot outside on the wall also, to the exclusion of other spots. That is called dharana. One example I will give you, then you understand. Dronacharya taught Pandavas and Kauravas archery, and now he is taking examination of all of them. At a long distance on a tree, he has kept a image, a clay image of a bird, and everybody has to shoot the eye of that bird. So he is calling one by one, what do you see? He says, I see the tree. Dismissed, you are not able. Many people have seen the tree, you are not right. Failed. Some people say, I see only the bird. Failed. When Arjuna's turn comes, what do you see? Sir, I see only the eye of the bird. Okay, you try and shoot. And Arjuna shot. This will explain to you Patanjali's dharana. One spot to the exclusion of everything else. This is dharana. Now, Vedantic concept, anyway, let me not put Vedanta here. That I will tell you when the dharana comes. I can only tell you that Vedanta has totally different meaning of dharana. Absolutely different meaning. In Vedanta, dharana means concept of God. Conceptual knowledge is called dharana. Anyway, dhyana. Dhyana is the penetrative meditation. You have seen only the eye of the bird. When you concentrate there, you will go inside. It was already described as that Vitarka Samadhi. That we are going inside that gross spot which you have seen, and we are entering inside, we are seeing the subtle things there. That is called dhyana. And we have gone fully inside, and we see the Prakriti, we see, we are aware of ourselves, we are aware that we are separate from Prakriti. That will be Samadhi. Anyway, so Patanjali says you have to proceed with 8 steps. And he has counted the 8 here. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhayo, mean these 8, Ashtau, 8 Angani are the steps for all the things which Patanjali has taught us up till now. So to start the practice, you have to start like this. Now he explains one by one. Yama. Yama, I told you, are the general rules. What are the general rules? Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, aparigraha, yamaha. These 5 are called general rules. Ahimsa. Ahimsa means not giving trouble to other beings. Not only not killing them, not feeling ill about them also. Feeling ill about anybody is also ahimsa. Ahimsa means absence of. In Bengali, you know what hinsa means. Hinsa means jealousy in Bengali. So I will put it in general way, ill feeling about anybody. This has to be avoided by all people, general humanity. These are the general rules of humanity. If they don't have to go back to the animal state, if they don't, as I said, want to kill each other, jealousy is the strange transformer of human nature, one day I told you. So ahimsa means absence of ill feeling towards anybody. Satya. Satya is truthfulness, vachik truthfulness. This also Patanjali will tell us, vachik, kayik, manasik. That means our behavior, our talk and our thoughts all have to be truthful. If we swerve from truth, we are not human beings. Then asteya. Asteya means non-stealing. Non-stealing. This also let us take in a subtler way. If we covet somebody's property, it is stealing mentally. Non-stealing also has to be practiced physically, vocally, mentally. So if I think I should, in some years back there was an advertisement. I think Onida TV was being advertised. Pride of your house, jealousy of the neighbor. Now, from neighbor point of view, I have got a TV. You see, I will tell him this way. In the beginning, people had this black and white TV. Now this color TV came. Somebody had color TV. I am satisfied with my black and TV, but because the neighbor has got color TV, I want color TV. Is it not a common thing, defect in the humanity? I want something only because the neighbor has got it. This itself is stealing mentally. And physical, actual stealing. So, non-stealing is the general rule according to Patanjali. Then comes Brahmacharya. Let me add here, to the extent possible. But let me talk a little more of Brahmacharya today. Why is Brahmacharya praised? What is Brahmacharya? Continence from sexual activity. Now, why it is necessary? Why all religions, why all spiritual paths take it as very fundamental thing? Now, I will use a little Vedanta here. Even Patanjali will do, but Brahman, the absolute reality, is not subject-object, does not have subject-object division. Patanjali will tell, this Purusha enjoying Prakriti is a subject-object division. Purusha in himself has nothing to do with Prakriti. Now, subject-object division, final grossmost subject-object division is male-female sex. The acutest degree of subject-object division is in male-female sex. Now, if we want to go to our real nature, if we want to exist as human beings, Patanjali is sharing as general rules, we have to control it. Not that we have to eradicate it. it will get eradicated only in final knowledge. There it will not exist. But now Patanjali is telling steps. And in this step, we have to practice it as much as possible. There are various stories about it. In the Prashnopanishad, the story is that if the householders at some proper time indulge in sex, it is called brahmacharya. The sannyasis are totally non-indulgent in sex. Those, anyway. And householders are not expected like that, but they have to control. They have to specific time and place and etc., etc. So they must control their sex urge. Otherwise, humanity is going to dogs by this, what I call is drift. Now, there is a story in Vedas. There was a great sage, Kashyapa. He had two wives, Aditi and Diti. Now this Diti felt a strong sexual urge in the evening. And she is asking Kapila, please satisfy me. The sage tells her, not Kapila, sorry, wrong name, Kashyapa. Kashyapa is the sage, Diti is one of his wives, and she feels a sexual urge in the evening. And she forces him. He goes on telling us it is wrong, something wrong will come out of it, but her urge is so much, she compels, you are my husband, you have to satisfy me. He says, okay, I have to satisfy you, but I warn you, bad will come out of it. And when they had the sexual union in the evening, all the demons were born. That is the story. Diti's sons are called Daityas, demons. They were born due to sex done at wrong time. These are the stories. So for a grahastha, there are times, modes, means prescribed, and if he follows those, it is called brahmacharya. So brahmacharya means absence from sexual contact. In the general rules, it is for the whole humanity, and there the meaning has to be taken, not absence of, but control of. Planned, controlled, this sexual indulgence is called brahmacharya, like brahmacharya. And brahmacharya is one of the general rules to be followed by humanity. Otherwise, we are going to dogs' mind. Now, last is aparigraha. Let me mention it today. We are crossing our time limit. Let me mention only. Aparigraha has two meanings. Not to collect unnecessary things around us. If you go to a gentleman's house, in the drawing room there will be a glass case, and hundreds of things will be kept there which are never useful to him. So aparigraha has two meanings. First meaning is not to collect things which are not necessary. Aparigraha has another meaning also. Not to accept free gifts. I will talk about it in my next class. But the meaning I am telling, not to accept free gifts. This free gifts acceptance led to all the corruptions in the world. Anyway, I'll take it up next time. So yama means general rules. Ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya and aparigraha are the general rules for all humanity. This we have to practice to the extent possible, you may add. To the extent possible, we have to practice. This will be to make us remain as good human beings. Then niyama will come. So, Om Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacha Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarottam Paravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.